All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode here. Today, I am with the Japan Code. Super excited about it. I've got the his links and everything in the description below. But if you want to do a brief introduction and then or you can do a long introduction. I always say brief, but introduce yourself as long as you feel that you need to, and then we will get started.
Okay, so as you said, I'm the Japan Code. I am a French-Canadian guy who learned English unintentionally through Immersion. And right now I'm trying to learn Japanese through Immersion again, this time intentionally, though, while working a full-time job.
Nice, yeah.
Through a math immersion approach.
Yeah, I actually wanted to. I'm glad that you mentioned that because I wanted to talk. Like, obviously, we're going to speak about Japanese, learning Japanese, anything Japan related. But yeah, you learned English as a second language.
Yeah.
So how, like, and I know that you said going through immersion and stuff. How was that getting started? You say accidentally. Just I don't know. Talk a little bit about that. I want to know a little bit about that.
So basically, I got to go back all the way till 6th grade, first of all. So in 6th grade, my school had a thing where the first half of the year was the regular 6th grade, but the whole year condensed into half the year. And then the second year was basically only English, so it was like immersion. But they kind of taught us like grammar and early output, of course. And it was basically the equivalent of like doing Take Him or like Genki or just like a basic grammar for beginners. And then after that, I basically I wanted to play games in English and watch YouTube videos in English. So I just did that. And eventually, suddenly I could speak English.
Whoa, how long was the process on that?
It was very long.
Right.
I'd say I got to like a point where I was, I don't want to say fluent, but fluent, because obviously everyone has a different definition for fluent. But
Right.
I considered myself fluent. I'd say maybe after like 4 or 5 years. But like at that point, I could only read. If I was speaking, I had a lot of trouble because I was still like translating everything in my head.
Right.
So then it took like about 2 years, I'd say, of just typing a lot and then eventually actually making friends in English and talking with them. And then at some point it kind of just got close to native level. So I'd say in total, maybe 6 or 7 years, but you have to remember I wasn't trying. I never set myself like, okay, I'm going to learn English. No, it just happened. So
yeah. Did you take an? I mean, I know that you're French Canadian, so and I know that a lot of Canadian culture is Canada and America is not vastly different. Like, it's different, but it's not.
Yeah,
like,
it's very similar. Yeah.
But like in terms of like, was there anything culturally that you enjoyed in particular that kind of helped you with your immersion in English, or was it just kind of again just by process of being in Canada and learning English?
Well, really, it was just like specific games that weren't available outside of English. Like the main one, I've talked about it before, like on Twitter, but the main game I was addicted to back then was RuneScape.
Yeah.
And that was only available in English. So I didn't have a choice. If I wanted to play it, I had to play it in English. And then when you're trying to like interact with other players, well, they only speak English too. So you have to speak English. And it also showed me how to type fast.
Right.
I learned that from that game. So. Yeah, it was just a question of the media I wanted to consume was in English, so I had to.
Gotcha. Do you think that kind of again, I know that you said that you didn't try, but do you think that you may have sped the process up by putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation to where it was kind of like a fight or flight? You had to get better in order to enjoy this media and have the people talking to you and stuff?
Oh, yeah, that might have helped a bit. Obviously, in my real life, everything was in French. I was going to school in French and friends in French. But it's true that if I wanted to like learn the game better or like understand these, let's say, YouTubers that I wanted to like understand what they were talking about, then like I was forced to grab the English. I mean,
how did you deal with like pronunciation? Because I'm gonna be honest. In my opinion, French has maybe the hardest pronunciation of any language that I've ever looked at. So how was it in terms of getting used to pronunciation and stuff like that in English?
God, that was so long ago. It's hard to remember. I remember in that 6 month of school, we spent a whole week trying to pronounce the whole class. We all had like a mirror and we had to be like the all week long. So that part was hard, and then the rest is just a question of getting used to it, because a lot of words are similar in French and English, but they're pronounced completely differently.
Right.
So that's really just a question of getting used of which one is pronounced the same, which one isn't. Obviously, not always are the same, but a good amount of them are.
Yeah. So, all right. So now, so you learn English. At what point does Japanese enter the mix?
That's something I wonder myself. So basically, after high school, well, here in high school, like the schooling system works differently than in the States or anywhere else in the world actually. So we have 6 years of elementary school, and then you go straight into high school for 5 years. And after that, you don't go right to university. You have something in between that's kind of like college, but not really. So in my first year of college, my friends showed me K-pop. I know that's not Japanese, but that's where it started. I started listening to K-pop, and then eventually I noticed that a lot of the media I used to consume, like games and anime, because I had started getting into anime, was from Japan. But I only realized that because I was looking into Korea, and then like someone mentioned that Japan was like, it wasn't similar, but it was as different to our culture as Korea was.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like when I was like, hey, Japan, that's a place. Let me research into it. And then eventually, yeah, I knew Japan was a place, but like I never thought about it before.
Right.
And as I was reading into it, I'm like, oh, all these games I played are Japanese, and these anime I just got into is Japanese. I want to learn more about Japan.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see here. Somebody says, "Ask him if you're all right." I can't read this. I do recognize the radical for float.
I don't. I know that's a name. It's a name of an author of a book, manga I just bought, but I don't actually know like the author. I just bought the manga because it was recommended, so I can't really answer that.
Gotcha. And then, is it true that French people are really snobbish when it comes to speaking English? Do they get mad at people not speaking French? I guess.
Yeah, that's actually sadly true. Not everyone, obviously, but like they're especially like right now. Like I live in Quebec, right? Not in French, in France. So there's a big thing in Quebec right now where they're adding rules where, like, they're saying it's to protect French, but really it feels like they're trying to eliminate English. So let's say in stores, products all have to have French on the front, but there's no rule to say that English is needed, right? And so because of that, there's a big, I guess, mindset where French is the language and screw English,
Gotcha. And it's that way it's that way in Quebec as well?
Yeah, specifically in Quebec, yeah.
Gotcha. Because I know I've talked to people who have went to France, and they talk about kind of almost like a little bit of a rudeness, in
I've heard of that too.
But
I've never been to France though, but
yeah. Well, so when like if you're watching like native content, right?
Yeah.
And it's something because I know that there's dialect differences between Quebec and France. So do you ever have trouble understanding anything? I mean, I guess it would be the same as asking an English person if they misunderstand or have a hard time understanding British English, and you really
it's
don't.
Kind of similar, but I would say the difference between French from Quebec and French from France is bigger than British and American English. If anything, kind of take British and Australian English, mix them together, and that would be kind of the difference.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've heard Quebec French is like there's a lot of like sharper sounds.
Yeah, and there's a lot more swear words also.
Maybe that's the American influence of, or the English influence of. So when you started learning Japanese, like, and you were like, yes, we actually did just speak about him learning English. So you can go back and listen to that here in just a little bit. But when you started learning Japanese, what was kind of what did you go through? I know it's the general question I ask everybody, but what was your kind of first thing that you did when you were like, all right, boom, I'm learning Japanese. This is what I'm doing.
Okay, so to give some context, right now I'm 26, and the first time I wanted to learn Japanese, I was 19. So it's been like 7 years since my very first attempt.
Mm.
And the way I went about it, I just I tried to find out first what was like the characters in Japanese. So I found about hiragana and katakana, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn those, but I had no idea how to. So I just took the charts and just like by myself created tests about them.
Uh-huh.
So I'd like learn 5 on a day, then I'd write a test like what's ka, but that I'd write it like ka. And then the next day I'd look at it and then I'd try to write it. And then in the back I wrote the answer. So it was like really bad, but I did that for like 2 weeks. And then I learned hiragana and then I quit. So that was my first attempt.
Gotcha. So you went through, do you struggle? Like I find myself, I struggle, and I don't know if it's because it's not used as much, but I struggle with katakana way more than I do hiragana. And I don't know if it's just because
that makes sense.
The frequency, but
yeah, it's definitely it's used a lot less, so it takes longer to get used to it. I think I can say I like for me they're basically the same as in like how used to them I am by now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's probably like a couple of like less used ones that are less acquired, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Cool, yeah, because it's one thing I wanted to dedicate a little bit of, and I know that again that you'll see him in reading, but I've also been drilling katakana recently, and not much. Like I'll spend maybe 5 minutes sometimes if I'm feeling a little bit more. I may go for 10 minutes of just. It's basically a thing, and it pops up it'll actually say the sound, and you pick the katakana that matches it. And so I find that that's helped a little bit. Like, so when I'm reading, especially if I'm watching, even when I'm watching what I was talking about earlier, Kentaro, the Sweet Tooth Salaryman, like, because I do watch it. That's the one show that I watch with subtitles on just to try and get a little bit of reading practice. And I'll see some katakana, and I
like
feel
Japanese
like
subtitles, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not English. I don't watch. I still in almost 3 months. I'm 2.5 months into like the whole MIA thing, and I've not once watched a single Japanese piece of entertainment with English subtitles. Like I've kept it as true as possible to the way that natives would watch it. So, and I can't wait to see the negative comments on this video about how that's a stupid idea because it's coming. But it's what I enjoy. It's what I enjoy doing, and I also love the idea. And if you want to, we can branch this into a question maybe. But like, I almost like to see how my brain, like people, because for example, you asked me, you're like, what is Kentaro the Sweet Tooth Salaryman about, right?
Yeah.
I have to go based on what I've heard and what I've seen to try and piece together what this show means. And I feel like that actually kind of makes an understanding of what I'm watching more so than just taking the context of the English. Like I'm having to piece it together like a puzzle.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
And that's just, I don't know, that's just kind of interesting. Hold on, we got a couple more questions here. I read somewhere that they are requesting Quebec to add English to traffic signs. Is that true?
I have no idea. I'm not the most well versed with recent news in Quebec, so that's possible. But I just know that they're adding French. That's all I know about, or not adding French, but making sure that French is everywhere. But that's possible for especially for road signs. That would make sense.
Yeah. Let's see. The English loanwords and katakana really throw me for a loop. Yes, I learned katakana by words. Because I kept forgetting them, so I would take a word like America. That's a good idea. Actually,
America.
That's a good idea. Like taking an entire word and just memorizing those characters that way. That's a good idea. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Welcome everybody. Can someone explain to me what it means by farming a textbook, as in the glossary? I don't know. I guess it would be something as
textbook. The sentence mining. You mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming it is. It would have to be sentence mining.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's basically what Matt used to recommend. So I'd assume that's what it is.
Yeah, because and that is, I don't do this, which I don't mind a lot of sentences, because again, I'm trying to get through RTK before I start doing that. But it would just be taking, like if you're reading Take Him and you come across a sentence that seems like something you would use in real life, like if that seems like a sentence that you say a lot in your native language, jot it down, learn that sentence in that language.
Yeah, that's got to be it.
And just doing it on repeat.
Yeah, just to finish answering your question, because I kind of stopped.
No, you're good. You're good.
So basically, like after a couple of attempts like that, just doing like a learning hiragana, then quitting, and then not remembering them, so relearning them. Eventually, I found remembering the kana. It's the same thing as remembering the kanji, but for kana.
Yeah.
And I used that, and then it actually sticked because it was easy, and then I kept up with the reviews, and it stuck. And then yeah, basically, I found out about AJAD really early on in like. Probably my second or third attempt. I've done like 6 or 7 by now attempts, so it was pretty early on. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's how I learned English. And then I proceeded to not do immersion. So I clearly didn't like actually get it. I understood the theory of it, but then I was struggling to spend half an hour a day on it. And it's not because I didn't have the time. I was just like, oh, I've done half an hour. That's good. I'm good for today.
Right.
Which is, not really the case. But that's what I was doing. Then later on, I found Japanese Level Up, JLUP, which is basically, I used to say is the same as AJAD, but less hardcore. It's not really, I mean, it's the same concept. You're immersing and then you're doing Anki with sentences. It's just that he was very adamant on saying that you don't have to spend your whole time on it. You just do a little bit, however much you're willing to spend on it.
Yeah.
But then after a while, I did RTK through that. I actually finished it, all 2,000 of them, but then I quit again. And that time, in my mind, I was like, okay, this time I'm quitting for good. I'm done with Japanese. I'm not coming back to it. And then it took, I think it was like 2.5 years later, I ended up actually coming back. And this is this current attempt. So that was 2.5 years ago, basically.
Nice.
And I've been on it since then. So my previous attempts, the longest I've been sticking to it was 3 months. Then I quit for 2.5 years, and now I've been at it for 2.5 years.
Man, that's crazy. I think I feel like I feel like, especially when you're going through doing RTK. This last time when you came back is when you started like hardcore, like MIA AJAT, right? Like going through it like more so. I have this not argument, but like I think so many people throw around the comprehensible input word, and I get told so much that watching content that you don't understand is useless, and I will fight that all the time because I'm not watching it to understand it. I'm watching it like it's so hard for people to understand that I'm watching it not because I want to understand it. That obviously is a goal down the road.
Yeah.
My goal is to be able to learn how to hear it.
Yeah, exactly. Your ears need to get used to Japanese before you can actually learn from it, Because at first it's just random sounds that you're like, oh yeah, it kind of sounds like Japanese.
Yep.
But then as you listen to it more and more, even if you don't understand anymore, other than, like konnichiwa and stuff like that,
right?
Your ears are picking out the sounds and you're like, oh, I just heard sa, I just heard ka, I just heard o, you know? So that's why it's really important, even at the beginning when you don't understand it.
Yeah, you got to get used to the sound. And the thing is, it's very motivating me. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about this. It was a friend of mine, and I said, people, I get asked all the time, and I'm sure you do too, how do you stay motivated when you don't understand? Weirdly, that is my motivation.
Yeah, exactly.
My motivation is that I don't understand, and I want to. So it's very true. It's like it's a weird thing. So. Hold on, we'll get back to the MIA thing. Let's see. Remember the kana is great. If I remember correctly, you told me on Twitter you didn't like Hajime Chacho. But did you check out his group channel?
I only checked like 2 videos from it, but then I was like, another time I'll check it. I promise I'll check it out at some point. I just didn't really have the will at that time to even watch YouTube videos, so I kind of just put it aside.
Are you talking about the channel there's a channel called Hajime, and it's just a dude who just is just incredibly high. Okay, yeah,
that's the channel name, yeah.
I watched one video because I mean, if you he must be like the biggest dude in Japan, because I created a channel and the opening page, like before I started watching anything, everything that was recommended was like Hajime.
I don't know if he's number 1, but he's definitely in the top 3 for sure in Japan. He might be number 1.
He's a little too high strung for my tastes. Like,
yeah, exactly.
he's hard for me to watch. Favorite Fishers video.
Favorite? Oh my god, I don't think I have one favorite video. I have two favorite series, I guess. There's a series that videos they were making that are ego kinchi, where they're not allowed to say English words, or not English word, but like English loan words, and
Whoa.
they slap themselves on the head with a slipper if they say something in English. So like they tried to, let's say they're playing bowling, they can't say "sturaiko," "storaiku," or whatever they say.
They have to use
So,
like whatever their
Yeah, they have
like
to try
home
and say it
terminology.
in Japanese, and they did it while playing Super Smash Bros. And that was kind of funny how they were trying to not say Smash.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be the Asurechik. What is it? Asurechik? Asurechik? The athletic videos. They're going like through like treetop courses and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess those are my two favorite series.
That sounds interesting. I may have to check. I have no idea what that is even referencing. I may have to check that out.
Well, just to say it quickly, because you're probably not the only person who doesn't know. It's one of the top Japanese YouTubers, but it's a group of people. It's not one person. They're like 6 or 7 friends. So, not only, some of the content is kind of, it's really like, it's pure Japanese YouTube, but overall, like, since it's a group of people, you get to hear, like, from a Japanese learner's perspective, you get to hear them talk with each other instead of just alone towards a camera. So you get to see like how friends interact and stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be incredibly useful.
Yeah, it really is.
Let's see. Best time for interviews. Yeah, I like these midday interviews, honestly, but it's just so I can't do that during the week. Seabolt, are you going to be updating monthly on your MIA journey? What did you decide? I am. I'm going to be doing monthly. Honestly, probably more. I'll probably be doing more stuff like that video I just made about RTK as well, sharing just any little piece that's going on. Do you speak to your cat in Japanese? Do you have a cat?
My mom has 2 cats, but no, like they're still. I just moved back here, so they're still like kind of getting used to me. They're still a bit scared every time I make too much of a sudden move. But no, I do not speak Japanese to the cats. It'll be a mix of English and French for now.
a long time ago, or not a long time ago. Well, it might have been a long time ago. I would say a few things to my cat in Japanese. From what I've seen, people don't really quit MIA as opposed to traditional methods like classes, textbook. I think the compelling content plus immersion and sentence mining. I think a lot more people quit MIA than you think. And
yeah, I remember I started 2.5 years ago, and half of the people aren't here anymore. So
I think
you
that
don't hear about them.
Yeah, well, I remember I sent Matt a message when I restart. This is my 3rd attempt at MIA. This is the first time I've ever made it past 1 day. Also, but I sent Matt a message and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm taking it serious. I deleted all the apps from I did the whole thing, right?" And he was like, I've seen I've seen you do this multiple times. I'm not sure that this time will be different, but I hope you the best, blah blah blah, that kind of thing." But
yeah,
we ended up talking, and he was talking about how he's seen so many people come in and not do anything or whatever. So I think a lot more people quit MIA than you think.
Yeah, because it's harder than you'd think, right? At first, you're like, oh, it's just watching something that I'm gonna enjoy. That's easy.
Right.
But it's hard because you have to make sacrifices in terms of time. If you want to spend a lot of time on it, then you have to spend less time on other stuff, and that's what's hard.
Yeah.
And then also, like for me, an example is that I was having a hard time actually having fun, because for so many years I was like, no, if it's fun, it's not productive, and I've got to be productive. So now you're telling me I have to have fun. Don't know how to do that anymore.
Right. Yeah, I can see that, because I feel like that would be because you're tall. I don't know how school is in Canada, and definitely not Quebec, but in English, it's like or in America, it's very like stop having fun. It's learning time now.
Yeah, it's the same.
Like,
it's the
and
same.
that's how it is. So, let me see. From what I've seen, okay, yeah. Comprehensible input is not really about understanding the language, but rather about understanding what it is that you're watching. Very true. That little bit of OMG, I understood, that really motivates me. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, that's great.
I
don't get that much anymore, because the average sentence I will understand.
Right.
I won't understand necessarily every single word. Like, there's a lot of sentences. There's still a lot of sentences that there's going to be a word that I don't know. but because of that, the majority of what I watch or read, I do understand, so I don't really get that feeling much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get it, let's say, if I'm reading light novels, because I'm not used to reading light novels, so there's a lot more that I don't understand.
Yeah.
So when I do understand, like if there's a couple of sentences in a row that I understand, then I'll be like, oh my god, I just understood that.
Right. Do you remember, like, and it may have even came before him. Like I remember understanding a few little bits and pieces of things before I started MIA, like years ago when I started. But do you kind of remember that first initial thing where you understood, like you're watching, even if subtitles, but then you hear that word and it's not even a translation thing. You hear it and you know exactly what they're saying. Like,
Yeah.
Do you remember like that feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. I still remember it. That I think that's another reason why some people like end up quitting, because they're still chasing after that feeling, but then as you get better, you don't get that feeling anymore.
Yeah.
And then they think they're not progressing, or you feel like you're not progressing, and then it can become hard to have fun.
Yeah. Let me see. I've been using Anki recently, and I noticed that remembering the meaning of a word inside of a sentence isn't hard. Yeah, I mean the I+1 thing, it can definitely help you remember sentences a lot easier. Dude, yes. Man.
Oh, that's what I was talking about, the ego kinchi.
Ego kinchi, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. I was wondering what it would be like if you put the sentence without the target word plus its definition in front of a card to help me to create mental ease inside of my head, then to recall the word.
I have no
I have
idea.
no
You'd
idea.
have to try it.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It kind of sounds like a MCD that Katsumoto used to talk about, except he wouldn't put the definition on the front. So
Yeah.
it sounds similar. It sounds similar to that.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I guess I was wrong about. I wasn't saying that like matter of factly, like to prove a point. I was just saying I do think a lot more people quit MIA than what you think they do. You just don't hear from them, so you don't know that they've quit.
Yeah.
Jonathan Ferreira, what languages do you speak? You speak English, French, and would you consider yourself a Japanese? Like, do you still consider yourself learning? I mean, I know that you always are learning, but like, there's usually a point where you hit when you say that you know Japanese versus saying that you're learning.
But no, I'm still just learning. I mean, I haven't started outputting yet, so I don't see how I could consider myself as a Japanese speaker yet, because I'm not speaking yet.
Right. When do you plan on doing your? When do you plan on working on output?
That's a good question. I don't have a specific plan, because the issue is that well, there's multiple issues, but the main issue is that I don't have a lot of vocabulary, because I've barely been doing like Anki.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, like I think I have 3,000 sentences at most, but I've been doing this sentences specifically for over 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So by now, if I had followed my original plan, by now I'd be like at over 7,000 sentences. So I don't even have half of that yet. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's kind of hard to output when you don't have the vocabulary to say what you want to say.
Right.
So for now, I just want to keep immersing, and then try to get myself back into doing Anki, get some more vocabulary, and I'll see if at the 3-year mark or even 4-year mark, if I want to start outputting, because I'm not in a rush to output. So I'll just what's important is I'm still immersing, so whenever I do start outputting, it's going to come even more naturally, and I'll sound better.
That's always one of the big critical comments I get, is talking about output. But like, I think it's so stupid that like, if someone wants to learn a language and never speak it, who gives a crap? It's what the person wants to do.
Yeah, if all you want to do is like read visual novels, then go ahead, learn to read and read visual novels. That's fine,
man. Like, there's so many people who they're just like, it's so stupid, you should output, and it's like, dude, I will do that when I want to. Like, if I want to do it right now, like me, even doing MIA, and I know that this is kind of against the book of MIA, but if I wanted to start outputting now, guess what? I would start outputting right now.
Sure, if that's related to your goal, then go ahead.
So, but anyway, have you guys tried learning some Japanese slang? I have not. I need to learn Japanese before I learn Japanese slang.
I haven't like specifically tried. I'm sure some words that I know would be slang, but like I don't actually know, for now.
Yeah. I wouldn't count it as slang, but I have watched videos on how to how natives say things. For example, in English you're taught, like, for example, where is the station, right? Where's the train? Eki wa doko desu ka? And I watched a giant video about the way that natives say it. They don't even use the word where. They actually would say something like eki wa itain desu ka? Like, or ikitain desu ka? Like, where they, I want to go, and then they put the desu ga on it, and it signifies, like, I need help getting here because I want to go.
Yeah. Hell, you could even just say ekiwa if it's clear that you're asking where it is,
Yeah. So I have done that. And I know that's not really slang, but I have looked into more so how natives say stuff versus the way a book or whatever you're, looking at teaches.
Yeah.
People are used to classical learning where your effort is equal to your understanding something, but in reality, it's all about getting used to a word being used for a certain thing. Yeah. I got really confused when I was looking at some stuff earlier because there's a kanji that's used for the same thing. It's pronounced the same way, and the word is only slightly different, but it means two different things. What is it? It's okiru for, like, wake up, like, whatever. But that kanji is also used for another verb, which is, I think, oku, which is like crap, I don't even remember what it is now. It's like what the heck is it? I'm gonna have to go to G-Show and look.
Yeah, that's what I was doing now, because I know what you're talking about, but
it's the same kanji. And actually, and remember the kanji, it that means to, like, rouse, wake up, whatever. G-Show. Let me see. What is oku? I think it's oku. No.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, okiru, like something happening versus waking up and rising up.
Yeah, happening. Yeah, that's it. It's okuru. It's okiru and okuru. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So I don't know what I was doing there. I don't know where I was going for there. But the point is that yes, that happened. Oh, about a word being used in a certain thing.
There's like okori and okosu and okiru.
Yeah, and it uses that same to get up or whatever. Kanji.
Yeah, the same kanji. Yeah.
So
there's a lot of words like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Sorry, I used to say shahinki. My friend Japanese laughed a lot because he asked me to use kamera instead because it made me sound like a 70-year-old grandma. Yeah. Of
course, you would say kamera now.
that's hilarious. What are all the books in the background? And what about the posters?
Well, I mean, I can't really talk about all of them forever, but like over here, let's see. I'm trying to see. This is all my manga over here. Right now, I have like 455 volumes of manga.
How many of those have you read?
All in Japanese. Right now, I'm at 180, somewhere between 185 and 190. Which I know sounds like I haven't read a lot of them, but there's a lot of situation too. Like, for example, I have Attack on Titan, but I started reading it from like where the anime left off. So the first 23 volumes, I haven't read them, but I've consumed the content of it,
Yeah.
I just didn't want to buy from 24 on. I wanted the whole thing. And then eventually when it's over, I'm going to reread it from the start. But, that's why I haven't read actually a whole lot of them.
Yeah.
And also because for the first year and a half when I wasn't actually reading yet, I was already buying manga because I was like, I want to build up a collection so that when I do start reading, I can, binge it. I just didn't happen to end up binging yet.
Yeah.
But it's happening now. Like this month, just in July, we're like the 13th today. Yeah, the 13th. And I've already read 11 volumes this month. So it's going up,
Man, I can't wait to get to that point. And I know it's...
Yeah, it's fun.
I know it's coming. See, and that's what I actually buy a lot of manga right now too. There's a guy I watch on YouTube that has a thing called the Manga Club on his Patreon. It's $25 a month, but you get 4 manga delivered, and that includes shipping. $24, 4 manga.
Oh yeah, like a blind box kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's so I don't get to pick what they are, but right now I'm not overly picky about that. Because when I start reading, I want to probably check a bunch of stuff out anyway to see what series I would want to read. But being in the United States, especially not in an area like I'm sure if I was in New York City or whatever, I could get manga, whatever. But being where I'm at, $25 for 4 books is incredibly cheap delivered to my house.
Yeah, like because most of the books I buy from 2 different places because there's nowhere locally to buy Japanese books. I even went to Chinatown, but I could find like all I could find was a Chinese manga, not. I mean, it was Japanese manga, but in Chinese.
Gotcha.
So I couldn't find anything like locally, so I have to buy online. So I'm buying from Amazon Japan and from Mandarake. And from Amazon Japan, you can only buy new books. You can't buy used because they won't ship outside of Japan.
Right.
So for new books, it adds up to like 10 to 11 Canadian dollars per volume, which is like 8 to 9 American dollars, I think. So if you use your example, 4 books would add up to about $40, you know. So the 25 is a good deal compared to 40.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy goes over there and like he works like, I mean, deals with freight carrier. Like he buys like thousands of dollars of books at a time.
Yeah.
And gets them freighted over, and so, you know, I mean, because there's no way. I mean, he's a good dude, but at the end of the day, he probably still is going to be wanting to make a little bit of money off of it.
He has to profit, or else he wouldn't do it.
But yeah, it's super cool, man. I dig it. I've actually have 2 packages here that I still haven't even opened. Like,
what's the manga we can see in the corner of your screen?
My room. Let me see.
Like to your right, I think. Right. Yeah, up there, up on the top. Yeah, that. Yeah.
Oh, that's The Office on DVD.
Oh, that's not even a manga.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
No, you're good. I mean, it's a prized possession. That's why it's I bought that because I bought this before The Office was getting taken off of Netflix. When me and my wife bought the house that I'm in, it took them like almost 6 weeks to get my internet set up. And I told her and we were watching through The Office again at that point, and I was like, I'm not waiting 6 weeks to watch The Office again. And I got on Amazon, and they had it for Amazon had that on. I got that for $40, the entire series.
My gosh!
And of course, as soon as Netflix announced they were stopping it, it went in price up a lot. So, have you all ever used frequency lists?
Not directly. Wait, I kind of lost the question. Okay, yeah, not directly. Like I know there's the MIA dictionary add-on that uses the frequency list to give like a star rating on how frequent it is. So I've used those stars to be like, oh, that's too rare, I'm not going to learn it. Or, oh, this is 5 stars, why do I not know this yet? So I've used it in that sense, but nothing like I haven't looked at a frequency list and been, oh, I don't know this word, let me learn it. I haven't done that.
Yeah. I know that there's arguments for and against, and I think one of the best arguments, not necessarily against frequency lists, but I think if you're learning stuff via what you're watching, that's your frequency list. It's going to come up in what you're watching. And I think a lot of people right out of the gate try to learn so much stuff that they will probably never learn or need to use anyway. Like, for example, me, I'm not overly huge into like arts and crafts. So like handcrafted wicker baskets, not like terminology that I would learn right out of the gate. Not that would be on the frequency list, but just as an example, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I've learned actually in the very beginning some terms that I probably, like if I had used the frequency list, I would have known not to learn that. Like, for example, I mean, it's not the best example because it's like a combined word, but there's the expression jigoku ezu, which is like, well, jigoku is hell, and then ezu is like a painting or a map or something like that. No, map would be chizu, so like a painting. So basically, the expression is it's a scene from hell, so it's something that you don't want to happen. But then I actually like made an Anki card for that, but then later I had to make one for jigoku on its own, and then for ezu on its own. So if I had just waited, I would have learned it on its own, you know.
Its own anyway.
And then I haven't heard this ever since then, so it was really pointless.
It'll pop up one day, and you'll be really happy you made that card.
Yeah. Oh, back then that was like my probably my 20th sentence card. So
fair enough. Let me see. If you're doing MIA for English and you mix all English accents in your immersion, is it going to hurt your accent? Probably.
Yeah, I guess it depends also on like what percentage. If they're all equal, then yeah, probably. But if you have like 5% British but 95% American, you're still gonna sound American, probably.
That's true. Yeah, that's true too. I'll tell you what blew my mind. You ever watch Japanese Ammo with Misa?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay,
I know who it is, but I haven't.
She does like she's actually the one that I learned the like eki wa ikitai desu ka, like or desu ka. But like anyway, when I first saw her picture, and I clicked on the video, like the first time I ever watched her videos, because I can't even remember what the topic was about, but I was like, I need to learn that, and I searched it, and she popped up, and she started speaking, and it took me a second to realize. I was like, she's speaking British English, and it was like, it's like seeing this Japanese woman with this British accent was just such a crazy thing for me. Like,
Yeah, that's kind of. I don't know if it's rare, but I personally haven't heard that much,
yeah, it was
if at all.
It was super super strange. Which I mean, it's like I feel like that's a very like close-minded. Obviously, why would people not learn British English? You know what I mean? Like it's just that as an American, like, and I'm sure other people think Do you think VR chat is good for language learning? I've never used VR chat.
I haven't either, but why not? If you're interacting with Japanese people, then it's good,
Yeah.
If you're outputting, at least.
Let's see. Okay, that's a comment to someone else. One of the characters used as a lot of 60s anime. With that huge manga collection, do you have any good recommendations for beginners just after the MIA basic vocab and grammar stage? Any thoughts on reading manga at that early stage? That's a good question because that'll be good for me as well.
So the boring answer is read whatever you feel like reading, no matter what the level is. Mm-hmm. But if you really want to go with something easy, let me just turn around and look at what I have. Obviously, the very common answer for beginners would be Yotsubato.
Yeah.
It's following a 4-year-old. So
what's hilarious is Yotsuba, like you saying that. A guy just commented and said Misa sounds more Australian to me, which I can agree with now that he said that. But it's Eric who talks about the manga that you just mentioned. His comment popped on screen at the same time you mentioned the manga that I've heard him mention so many times. It's just a weird combination of things here because he's always repping that manga.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy it. Like I remember, like early in MIA, because I actually read that manga before starting MIA. Mm-hmm. So it was when I was doing a Japanese level up, like I talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. But when I switched to MIA, out of the people who were like doing it back then on the Discord, a lot of people said, "No, why are you reading this? It's boring. Read something better." And it's like, no, but I actually do enjoy it. It's not because it's easy. I actually enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's a nice slice of life. Another easy one would be Karakai. What is it? Karakai Joji no Takagi-san. Yeah, that's a fairly easy, and there's actually not a whole lot of text per page. Mm-hmm. So it goes, and it's like a middle schooler. So this text is really simple, slice of life. It's just a girl and a guy who are in love, but the guy doesn't want to admit it. So she's just teasing him all the time. So it's pretty easy, and it's very wholesome. Let's see. Is there something else that's really easy? I think that's it for like really easy. Like there's other stuff that's slightly simple. Like for example, a new game has terminology from like a game developer, but if you ignore those parts, it's very like simple Japanese. It's just they're not trying to sound very intellectual. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I guess those would be my recommendations. Yotsubato and Karakai Joji no Takagi-san.
Yeah. So somebody said The Office is my favorite manga. I love The Office. Do you consider yourself bilingual French-English?
Yeah, absolutely. By now.
I always thought, Australian. You said you said you didn't start outputting. Okay, blah blah blah. Let's see. Already read some Yotsuba. It's fun and really easy to learn from. And they actually have you ever seen? Which you have 30 million manga there, but like, have you ever seen the bilingualmanga.com website?
I've heard of it, but I've never checked it out.
Yotsuba's on there, but like you go there and the pages are all in Japanese, obviously. But there's a button on the side that you can click, and you click it, and it turns all the dialogue to the English translation.
Oh, okay.
So, which I don't know. I mean, I guess you're taking into consideration maybe.
Yeah.
Depending on if those translations are correct or not, but I don't know. It's still a pretty cool thing.
Probably. Like maybe I guess if you're in the very very beginning, like your first month, and you're still like kind of I don't want to like turn off English subtitles yet. That might be good
Mm,
because at the end of the day, it's a translation. You're not really,
right.
understanding. It's not one for one. A lot of
Right.
time there's going to be localization and stuff like that.
Right.
But I guess just to help you get started, that's probably fine, but not for too long.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's what I said. From the beginning, I tried to get rid of English as quick as possible to fully create that environment as if I was a child trying to learn Japanese.
Yeah.
Let's see. Thanks for the recommendations. Honestly, I would recommend any manga that isn't extremely text heavy, as long as the speech bubbles aren't humongous and you've got drawings assisting comprehension. The language should be a bit. I think that.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation with a friend. I mentioned this on yesterday's podcast, but I had a friend. So he was like, "You need to start playing games in Japanese," and I was like, "Well, maybe I need to wait for my vocabulary and blah blah blah." And he said, he said if you're trying to learn how to do the breaststroke and swim, is doing it in mud gonna help? And I was like, well, probably not. And he said, exactly. Get in the pool and start practicing. The only way you're gonna learn how to play games in Japanese is to play games in Japanese.
That is true, but I would like also add that it's absolutely true, and you could absolutely, especially getting like games that have a lot of gameplay.
Mhm.
But if you're still doing like RTK and haven't started actually sentence mining, I would say, except if you really want to do it, I'd suggest maybe waiting a bit. Like personally, I would have probably given up if I tried to do like play video games before I started learning words.
Yeah.
I'd stick with audio, but that's just me. Like you're totally fine
Yeah.
if you want to play video games, then go and play
Yeah.
video games even in the beginning.
Right. Well, and realistically, that's probably a good point to make. I think part of that is just him knowing where my level of Japanese is.
Oh yeah.
Because I've off and on studied Japanese for 10 years. So
That's true.
I'm probably one of the more advanced MIA people out there. Like, that's not saying I can speak or that I'm good, but
Yeah, you just been advanced for the point that you are at,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
And so I mean, I think it could help because I know a lot of words. I just don't know words that I can put together because from learning from traditional methods, I can say random words that, who knows if I'll ever need, like wind, for example. I don't say like, I mean, I get it. Like sometimes you're like, oh, it's windy outside, but like, is that a word that I really should have like concentrated on and learned?
Yeah, I
You know,
see what you mean.
so I have a whole bunch of random words like that. Let's see. Salute. You still use Anki? If so, how many sentences do you have? You don't use. You stopped Anki, correct?
But no, I do Anki. It's just that every day I'm like, okay, I gotta make cards. Gotta make cards, and then when I get to it, I don't feel like it, and then I go back to I do my reps, and then I go back to immersing. So I wanna, like, I haven't given up on Anki. I just gotta. I'm lazy. Okay, I'm like one of the laziest person possible. So because of that, it's like it's effort. I don't really feel like doing it.
Right.
But I do want to do it. And as of right now, I have either just under or just over 3,000 sentences, which does include about 700 from Taking.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's not bad. I like sentence mining. Have you ever used and I have pros and cons of this, but have you ever used the website Closemaster?
No, no, I've never heard of that.
So it's like basically it'll set up and like it'll have a sentence and then it'll have four choices as to which word goes in the blank. I really like that idea outside of the fact that it's completely arbitrary and I've never been taught any of these words, so it's kind of just a mix and match until you kind of figure out what's going on. Like and maybe I'm looking over it. Maybe somebody uses Closemaster and can tell me, but like if they would say teach you 10 words and then give you multiple choices of filling them in a sentence or whatever, I could see that being, but like it is kind of weird to just jump in and be like, all right, cool. What is my first sentence? Something like, Tim threw a ball at Eric's face and he ducked and it bounced off the wall. And it's like, what is the word for bounce? Like, you know what I mean? Like, all right. It's just kind of out there.
Yeah, that's very random.
Yeah. Let's see. Pokemon is a good beginning manga/anime. I've never watched Pokemon ever.
Ever? At all?
Ever. And I want to, especially because I know Kinniku Ninja is a massive Pokemon fan, and like,
Yeah.
Honestly, just hearing him kind of talk about stuff and whatever, like it really makes me want to play it, or watch it. But yeah, I think
But
I've
if
never watched a lot of it, or not watched any
I
of it.
haven't watched a lot of it either. Like as a kid, I've watched maybe like 30 episodes and a couple of movies. But I'm actually like I started because the Pokemon anime just every like generation it ends and then starts with a new generation and stuff.
Uh,
So current one that started in 2019, I've been following it weekly and it's actually pretty good. And it definitely is easy, so that's a good one at the beginning. And because it's so short, there's only like 22, 23 episodes so far. It's a good point to, if you want to actually give it a shot, then it doesn't feel overwhelming. You don't have 900 episodes to watch, you only have 20.
yeah, yeah. I thought about watching because I've never watched Dragon Ball either. Again, like here's the thing. Everybody has to understand. Like, I did not get into Japanese because of my interest in manga or anime.
Yeah, it's the other way around.
But yeah, I'm getting into it because of Japanese. But I've always thought like maybe I should watch Dragon Ball, and then I'll see the 2 billion episodes, and I'm like maybe I shouldn't get into Dragon Ball. Let's see.
Well, one thing I want to note, because you're talking about you haven't been into anime for a long time. For me, a lot of people think, because I have a lot of manga and, I'm pretty much a weeb at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't actually like been into anime and manga for my whole life. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I got into anime when I was a kid and I've been watching since. But for me, the first time I watched an anime, I was like 16. So it's not something that's like not nostalgic for me, It's
Right.
something. Well, it's not recent anymore because I'm 26, but it's somewhat recent, It's only 10 years out of my 26 years of life that I've been watching anime. So
yeah, it's definitely something I'm getting into as I go on. But again, I think that's just kind of just more of an appreciation. Like every time I study Japanese, there's a little bit more of an appreciation for the culture and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if you search for Japanese in anime and manga by the Japan Foundation, you can view a little flash site that has unique expressions for various anime character archetypes. Interesting. Do you guys use Genki or Mina no Nihongo?
No. I've checked Genki in a previous attempt. I've checked a couple of pages of it, but that was it. Nothing more.
Yeah, I have both Genkis. I have Genki 1 and 2. I don't use them, but I will tell you what I do is on I don't know where you're at, and not you, but like the viewers, but like Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's a channel called Tokini Andy, and he live streams lessons from Genki. He's like he teaches Genki. I find that to be incredibly enjoyable because he breaks it down. He strips a lot of the useless content from it, and it's just a dude speaking that's it's just like a dude talking, right? So, and it's a lot more relatable. I find a hard time with textbooks because I don't know what to do. Like, I have Genki. Okay, what do I do? Do I just go through it? I mean, obviously, you just go through it, but, like, what is my structure? Do I go through it? When do I go back? What is my review? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I see. I think it comes with it. Well, not it comes, but there's a companion workbook that you would, like, if you were doing it traditionally, you would read through the regular Genki and then do the exercises in the workbook, I think. Yeah. But, for doing MIA, you shouldn't do that, so it doesn't matter, but...
Yeah. I do watch Tokini Andy's streams a bit for some entertainment, and I like supporting him. He's an awesome dude. So, but that's about all I'll do for that. I got bored of Pokemon after 20 episodes, but I also used it for immersion in the beginning. If you like it, I'd recommend it. Yeah, I can see that. Something about Take Kim. That must be in response to something else. Probably in reference to to use the books. Yeah, I don't use Take Him though. I do use an app called Bunpo, because I find that it's a stripped down Take Him, and I don't mean that in terms of content. I mean that the same paragraph that Take Him would be 4 paragraphs to explain something. Bunpo has like 2 or 3 little flashcards, and you flip through, and that same information is conveyed.
Yeah, because I did take him. I don't think I would recommend doing it the way I did it though, because back then the recommended way was to actually like take every sentence from take him and
Mhm.
just put them in Anki. But a lot of the sentences, first of all, now I realize they don't actually like they're not something a native would say. Not
Yeah.
all of them, but some of them.
Hmm.
And a lot of times they'll also introduce like two, three, four new words in the same sentence. Even there's this one sentence. I don't remember what the sentence is, but it came with six new words, and that's the furthest thing from one T. You know, that's
Yeah.
six new words. So I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing that, but at least reading it and then doing like I think it's Tango now that's recommended.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you know, just reading through Taken to get the explanation, or even if you find that too boring, just if you find a grammar point that you want to learn about, then go find it and take him and read it. You know.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, and that's what I was doing at the beginning, but I still just found it to be so mind numbing.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then
I
I
actually
saw
enjoyed it somehow. I don't know how,
really,
but
and
I
then I
had fun
found
doing it. I think it was just because I did RTK the original vanilla way, right? So
Mhm.
of writing every single kanji, every single rep, all 3,000 of RTK 1 and 3. So
Hmm.
by the time I was done with that, I was just excited to be done with it.
Right.
So I think that's why I actually enjoyed Take Him. It was just like a breath of fresh air, you know? And I'm like, wow, I'm actually learning real Japanese this time.
Yeah.
Not that kanji isn't real Japanese, but like,
No, I
you
know
know,
what you
words,
mean.
sentences, and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I know that's you've commented on a few of the videos that I've made about that because that's what I always talk about. My struggle with RTK is that I understand the importance, but man, if I could have been adding 10 vocabulary words a day for the last 2.5 months instead of 10 or 15 kanji, but I also understand this is it's a group effort thing, right? Like
Yeah,
every
yeah.
piece is part of the puzzle, so
Yeah,
it is what it is. But
because the way I see it with doing RTK at the beginning, like not the full RTK, but like what's Matt's deck, like 1,000 kanji, I think,
yeah,
something like
it's a
that.
thousand. Yep.
So with doing that and then recognition instead of actually writing it out,
Mm,
uh, it gives you an amount of time for first of all for your ears to get used to Japanese as you're immersing. So by the time you actually reach sentences and vocabulary, you can actually already hear the words.
mm,
Whereas if you start right from the beginning, you'll have a harder time actually hearing them.
yeah.
And the other part to it is that the point of doing RTK isn't so much to actually learn the kanji, in my opinion, so much as it is to actually see the parts of the kanji instead of it looking like random blur of lines. You know,
Right.
you actually see the parts of it, and well, I like to say demystify kanji basically
Yeah.
because it kind of looks foreign and exotic, and then suddenly, but after you do RTK, even kanji you've never seen, you're like, oh, it's that, that, and that put together, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's helped a lot. Like I've seen words, like and it helped like seeing the characters help me kind of remember um different things. And then there and to what you're saying is I've seen characters that yes, normally would have just looked like a flash of stuff, but from where I've been so exposed to the writing system over the past 2.5 months, it wasn't as hard for me to grasp what was going on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So let's see. Only with English, I have no channel. Okay, that's something else. Seabolt Speaks. You should watch slash read Hinomaru Zumo. It's about sumo wrestling. I will.
Oh, I
check
know
it
that
out.
series. Oh, wait, you skipped a question here. I
This
wonder
one?
if you guys have ever tried listening to audios at a faster
Ooh.
speed. Uh, I haven't, because, like, in any language, but especially in Japanese, there's often, like, pauses within, especially, like, just straight with a small tsu,
Mhm.
like skip, tsukomi. If you're going at a faster speed, you're not going to get used to the proper amount of time that you have to wait.
Mhm.
So and even if we're just talking like time between sentences, or if you're just like asking a question or whatever, you like the little pauses. If you're going at a faster speed or slower speed, you won't actually like get used to the proper amount of time.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
That's my thought.
I can't imagine speeding up the already fastest spoken language in the world. Like I feel like that would be so crazy. It's funny that you feel lost with textbooks because I like them because they give me structure. Yeah, I mean, I know some people enjoy them. I wish that I was a person who could enjoy them. I just don't. I never know what to do. I was never like a super big bookworm, or like I wasn't like overly great in school, like.
Yeah.
And so the idea of structure, it kind of freaks me out because I don't know what to do. That's
Yeah, I
my
can
biggest
relate.
issue.
And it's not even just with language learning. It's with any subject for me. Like in high school, I absolutely hated history, but it's just because the textbooks were boring. Now I'm kind of like, once I finish, well, first of all, with Japanese, I'd like to actually learn about Japanese history.
Yeah.
But like once I mean, you never finish learning a language, but when I'm finished learning Japanese, I want to go back and actually like learn more about the world's history in English. First of all, for my English, but also for the sake, because I'm curious. There's a lot of things I haven't learned because I hated the textbooks, so I didn't pay attention.
Yeah, no, for sure. Textbooks, Rasmus. Japan Code. Did you ever have trouble hearing Japanese speech? Do you ever have trouble hearing Japanese speech still / parsing the sounds?
I'm not really, no.
Is it pretty?
Like sometimes I'll hear, like if it's a word I don't know, I'll notice. Oh, that was a word I don't know. I'm not gonna be like, oh wait, where's the word? I'll actually like notice where it is. I won't know what it is, but I'll notice it and I'll notice the sounds.
Yeah. Seabolt always rocking the white T-shirt. It is my go-to look, man.
I have a Bray Wyatt T-shirt. If you didn't notice,
Bray Wyatt, yes.
Old one, but still.
That's what I should, man. I should dig out. I should start rocking like a new, either just a new wrestling shirt or like. You should. I have a bunch of like retro basketball jerseys and stuff too. I get uncomfortable wearing. I know this sounds stupid, but I hate wearing shirts in my house. Like.
I know,
like beefy shirts. You know what I mean? Like
just for the video. Before that, I was in a white T-shirt, just like you, actually. So.
There's just the white T-shirts are so light, especially for like bigger dudes like me. Like white T-shirts are just light. They feel good. They breathe well. That's what it is. So that's hilarious though. I never thought I would reach a point on YouTube where people picked up patterns that I would do. I had somebody call me out the other day on. And the thing is, so my glasses are broke, right? Like the nose piece is broke on them. So that's why I'm always messing with them. They keep falling down. I have to get them fixed. Like things are still just kind of opening up here from like the quarantine, so I haven't had an opportunity to go get them fixed. And so like when I take a drink, right? Well, from where the nose piece doesn't hold them in place, it moves. So I usually fix them right after.
You should fix them with the like anime glasses full.
Yeah. But I had somebody comment and they were like, "Drink, fix glasses, repeat." And I was like, I never thought I would hit a level on YouTube of people picking up patterns and stuff. But anyway, I don't know. I can't read your name as I don't know how to read Japanese, but I like Nordic culture. Oh, okay, it's to somebody else. Or thinking was a word. Appear naturally. Oh, okay. Or thinking, was that a word? Did that problem just disappear naturally? That goes back into the question that was just asked. Or so it was, do you ever have trouble hearing / parsing the sounds? Or thinking, was that what was that word? Or did that problem just naturally disappear?
Well, I guess if it's a word I don't know, I'm not gonna necessarily remember exactly what I heard, so I'll have to go back and be like, okay, it was that, but then sometimes I will. It kind of depends. Yeah, I guess it depends on the speed and what I'm watching. Like if it's something that there's a lot of words that I don't know, then I would have to go back to like pick it, I guess. Like I'm as it's happening, I'm hearing it, but then after that I'll forget about it almost instantly, and then I'd have to go back. But if it's the only word I don't know in a long string of words that I know, then I'll be like, oh, it was that word, let me look it up. I'll remember it. My brain will stick to it.
Right. How often do you hit like in sentences where it's more than like the kind of target 1 or target 2? Like how often do you get like an actual like beefy sentence where there's like 5 or 6 things that you're just super confused on?
I'd say it really only depends on what I'm watching. Because let's say I'm watching just a very basic slice of life. There's basically never going to be any. Like once in a while, there'll be one that has 2 words, but it's only if they're speaking like about a specific topic, But then if I go and, for example, when I'm reading One Piece, it does happen a couple of times that there'll be sentences with multiple words because they're going to be talking. Let's say, I don't know if you know anything about One Piece whatsoever. But basically, you're gonna have sometimes you have like the Marines, which is, well, basically like real Marines, just worse.
Mm.
But they'll be talking about army related terms, and I don't really know that stuff. So in those kind of sentences, then yeah, I will get some sentences where I don't know much.
Nice. That makes sense. I'm anxious to get to the one, man. But I'm trying not to jump the gun here. But let's see. I'm not the biggest fan of language books, but I'll take that any day over language learning apps. They just seem too casual for me. Language learning apps. I mean, literally the video on my channel where I talk about deleting all the apps, which I did not think would be as big as it is, but it is, and which is not huge, but huge for my channel standards. And I talk about that exact thing. My issue with the apps are it's hard to stick with one language because they're always enticing you with, we just updated and added this language. We just updated this course. We just updated this course. And I think that, especially for people who have a problem with sticking to something anyway, it's a really, really bad system, right? Like, I'm doing Duolingo.
And they're making them want to switch languages.
Yeah, I'm doing Duolingo.
That's what the app wants, because if you're switching language, you're sticking longer to them.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's ultimately, I mean, I hate to say that an app doesn't care if you learn a language, but realistically they don't, because if you learn the language, you no longer need them. I mean,
yeah.
So it's kind of a weird thing. And that's why I will always, and I know people are like, well, couldn't you say the same about MIA? You could, but MIA doesn't charge you anything, so they're not making money anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So
the real goal of MIA is to get people to whatever goal they have,
Yep.
Of course, to make money on the side, but they're not charging you for the sake of giving you the information.
No, absolutely.
If they're charging you, it's to get extra stuff, stuff that you don't need, but that will make it easier.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. And like, well, even the stuff that like, for example, the Patreon where you get early access to beta releases. Once those are out of beta, guess what? Everybody gets them for free.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Is it?
Yeah, skip the it.
Is Japanese useful in your working environment?
No, not at all. Actually, at work, because I work in a warehouse, and we've started ordering more stuff from China, and every time we get something in, people are like, "Oh, what does it say?" I'm like, "I'm not learning Chinese. I'm learning Japanese."
Right.
Like, isn't that the same? No, it's not. I mean, they do share some characters. Sometimes actually, I can tell because we got some boxes that, like, some items were white and some were black, but and on the boxes it was written in I don't know what kanji is in Chinese.
Hanzu.
Hanzu, yeah. So they'll write it in Hanzu, but it's the exact same as the Japanese kanji. So I'm like, oh, that's Kuro, that's Shiro, and they're like, how do you know? I'm like, I know I keep saying Chinese is not the same as Japanese, but those are the same.
Right, those characters are the same.
Yeah. But no, working life.
You could have been immersing instead. You are here listening to an English podcast. Yep, that's what we do. I love Bluebird languages. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. I got to know it after your interview. Already a good few hours. And the best language learning apps are Japanese puzzle games. Never used a Japanese puzzle game, but I do like, I can see that.
Speaking of getting a good few hours, have you got an immersion in before doing this?
Yeah, I've watched. I watched a YouTube video of this girl that I watched getting her 1 million subscribers YouTube play button. It was like 8 minutes, but then I did watch an episode of Kentaro the Sweet Tooth Salaryman right before. Which they're 24 minutes, so I've got about 30 minutes of immersion, but I have done some flashcards and stuff. I'm about an hour and a half into like just kind of like active study in terms of flashcards and some other stuff. I'll tell you what I've been doing recently that really, really has helped is I downloaded on my phone a game called Retro Bowl. This has nothing to do with languages, this portion of it, but it's basically Tecmo Super Bowl for your phone. And so what I've been doing is I will set a thing. I'll open up my Anki and I will do 10 minutes of reps in my RTK. And then I will stop. I'll go out. I'll play a game of Retro Bowl just to have a lot of fun. Yeah. And then I pop back into RTK and I'll do another 10 minutes of it.
Kind of like time box.
That has been incredible. I don't know if it's helping, but in terms of breaking down my study, so to speak, into 10-minute segments versus being like, oh, I got to do this for 30 minutes, I've actually done more.
Yeah, it's great for your mental. You need a little break, especially with RTK reps. You're focusing a lot to try to get them in.
Yeah.
So having that little break, like when I was doing RTK, that's exactly what I would do. I would have Anki. There was like an actual time boxing feature in Anki. I mean, I said there still is, but I was using that, and every 5 minutes it would stop for 1 minute, and then it would restart. So I do like 5 minutes Anki, 1 minute just chill, watch a minute of a show or whatever. I'd just like I'll tab quickly, play, and then once the minute's over, I'd have like a timer start ringing, and then just switching between the two. I was getting immersion with my reps. And it was, but it didn't feel like tough, because I was switching from Japanese to Japanese basically, but it felt like switching from Japanese to a break.
Yeah.
So it felt great that way.
Yeah. Release those endorphins, man. That's what it's all about. I usually say the best language learning apps, monolingual dictionary. I also work in storages from time to time, and it's kind of funny being able to tell what some boxes in Chinese say. So Japan code. So don't you think the next step for you would be learning Chinese?
No. I mean, I understand why people say that because kanji and hanzu, but personally, like, there is no language that I've learned just for the sake of learning a language. It's always because I'm interested in stuff that's available in that language. And I have no interest in, China and Chinese or anything like that. So I don't see why I would spend the time on that.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I'm already like, my English is less good than it was when I started doing Japanese. And my French has suffered a lot because I spent most of my teenage years doing English. So
right.
I'm kind of already thinking, like, how am I going to maintain 3 languages? Forget 4. 3 is like my limit for now.
Right.
There's a lot of other languages that, like, if not for maintaining languages, I'd like to dabble in. But in reality, I probably won't.
Gotcha. It makes sense. How much time do you spend reading every day/week?
I don't actually spend like a specific amount of time. I basically what I've been working on the past couple of months is just doing what sounds fun at the time. So sometimes I'll go a whole week without reading. Sometimes I'll spend a whole day reading.
Yeah.
I think if I take the past week, my average been reading an hour and a half a day, just because I'm reading in the bus to work and back from work, and it's 45 minutes each way. So
yeah.
So because of that, I've been reading about an hour and a half per day recently.
Man, that's crazy. That's
a lot of One Piece.
Yeah. Your next language will be Swedish. I would like.
Guess that's what it's gonna be.
I would like to learn some Swedish.
That's actually that's one of the languages I have in my list of languages I would like to learn but never will.
I have a lot
like
of those.
Swedish, there's Korean, there's Finnish, whatever the Norwegian or whatever the language is called, Spanish. I've done some Spanish in high school actually, 2 years of it, but I don't remember. The only you speak Spanish, right?
I speak a little bit of Spanish.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the only Spanish I remember is "¿Cuál es tu número de teléfono?"
Oh, all right.
That is all.
Yeah. What is your telephone number? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could pick, like, if you like, the thing is, I think Japanese probably sets a weird precedence where you're thinking, man, it's going to take so long, because like Japanese is so fundamentally different from Western languages, and I mean, to be fair, most Eastern languages are, but
true.
I think also, like, what I'm going to go through doing Japanese, I'm not going to go through with other languages. I want my Japanese to be top notch. I want it to be the best of my languages. Yeah. I'm willing to spend 3 to 6 months on another language just to get to a conversational level.
Yeah.
But not necessarily want to just constantly be surrounded by the culture as I do Japanese.
See, I totally understand that. That's just not something that I personally like. It's strange because there's a lot of people that say, I need work or else I would get bored in my life. But there's so many things that I want to do in life and learn. that I've already calculated that even if I didn't work, I wouldn't have the time to do all of them.
Right.
So because of that, I'm like, those languages are not a priority at all. I'd rather work on other stuff. I've already like planned like priorities. Obviously, things change
Yeah.
every year or even every day sometimes. But
Right.
just to say that's why I wouldn't put the time on it. But I totally understand. Like it's for example, like polyglots who spend a little bit of time on a lot of languages. It's not something. It's not something I would do. But I totally understand the appeal of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where I try to let people like, this is not a Japanese channel. This is a language. That's why I almost rebranded this to a Japanese channel, but that's why it's staying languages, because at the end of the day, I will move on to something else. That's not saying I'm going to let my Japanese subside. I will still continue studying it, but at some point, there will be another language that I actively study as much as I'm currently studying Japanese, and Japanese will just go into a maintenance mode.
Yeah, then you'd have to rebrand again if you had to do that. So
Exactly. And so
might as well. And it's a good branding already. So
yeah, Seabolt speaks. I don't speak
exactly.
really a lot of anything just yet, but Seabolt speaks. That's what I do, and it's perfect for a podcast name too.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the difference between the AJAT/Mac community. Bad wording, but oh well. AJAT and MIA community and the general language learning community. We don't care about languages. We just care about one language.
Yeah.
Do you have contact with Japanese speakers on the line?
I do not know. That's one reason why I'm not in a rush of to output, because there's no one that's like waiting for me to have a good conversation with. So
yeah.
No rush for now.
That's what I always tell people when people, again, go on the just get so butthurt over the fact that I'm not outputting. First off, it's what I am choosing to do, but second off, like I mean, I could start to reach out to people on HelloTalk or Tandem or any of these apps. I'm just not, because I would much rather at this point get another 30 minutes of immersion than trying to bumble through 2 sentences for 30 minutes. That's just me. Yeah. Once my vocabulary gets up, I probably will be the black sheep of MIA and start outputting way earlier than I need to. But again, it's just based on your own personal goals. But like I never have an opportunity to use Japanese in terms of my immediate life. Also, with language exchange, there's that weird thing where it's like there's an obligation to do stuff anyway. Like, I don't have just any actual Japanese friends where you're actually just wanting to chat because you like each other. So there's not really a need for it.
With language exchange, it has to go both ways. You can't just only talk the one language you want to. You have to talk their language too. So English in your case,
right?
Probably.
Yep. Absolutely. And with it being English, man, I know I've talked about this before, but again, everybody's like, "Oh, you speak English, you're so privileged." But if I want to speak Japanese to someone else, they're gonna want to make me speak English longer because that's the practice they get.
That's why you got to make Japanese friends who are interested, just in making friends, not in making an English-speaking friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Is setting immersion time goals helpful? I feel like I'm hitting my 3 hours and then doing less than I could.
I mean, it depends on who you are as a person. Because I used to do that, and I set myself a specific goal. Like it's like, okay, I gotta reach 3 hours every day. Or actually, like something that I used to do before my burnout last year is I was trying to. I was like, on work days, I have to reach 4 hours, and then on non-work days, I have to reach 7 hours. Mm-hmm. And then that's obviously like, yeah, sometimes I do that, but I don't always feel like doing that much, obviously, because that's a lot. Yeah. So trying to reach that goal, my thought was like, even if I don't reach it, I'm going to do more, which was true. But then, at the end of the day, if you're not reaching your goals, it's just, you feel negative about it, or at least I do. So it just made me, burn out instead. Right now I'm doing a lot better, but instead my only goal is to have fun, not to do a specific amount. And then I'm actually doing consistently more than I used to just by doing that. So for me, having like an actual number goal is not pointless, but it's not working well for me, so I'm not doing that.
The only goal that I've set for myself is bare minimum of 1 hour a day, because I think anybody can get an hour. And I look at anything past that as being bonus. Basically every day it's like, I basically want to look back at the day and think I spent as much time as I could have in the language. I related a lot to the tweet that you made about, well, this show is 25 minutes and I've only got 20 minutes, so I'll just not do anything.
Yeah.
And I've really started, again, that's where I started. I'll pick up Anki for 10 minutes. I'll pick up a YouTube video for 5 minutes, anything to get just that 5 minutes, man. You do that 100 times. That's so much extra time,
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly what since making that tweet, I've actually started doing that with manga. Like I said, I'm reading manga in the bus right now on my way to work and back. And every time, like, let's say reading a chapter would take me, let's say, just a random number, 10 minutes. My bus ride is 45 minutes. So at 40 minutes, I finished 4 chapters, but then I wouldn't have the time to read the 5th chapter. So I'd just be like, screw it, I'm not going to read it. But now I'd actually read the 5 minutes, and then on the way back, I'd also read that 5 minutes, and suddenly I have an extra chapter, an extra 10 minutes,
Yep, absolutely.
And that's 10 minutes per day of extra. Do that 5 times, that's 50 minutes. So 50 minutes per week, then times 4, you're at 200 minutes per week extra, just with that little 5 minutes.
Extra couple of hours. Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's exactly what it is.
That's
making sure.
One situation, there's more times that it happens too.
Right. Absolutely. We're like an hour and 20 in here. I do want to keep chatting, but I'm trying to, again, just going with the immersion thing. I made a goal to start wrapping these just so I can spend more time in Japanese and stuff. But it also, I think, instead of having 3 and 4 hour podcasts, gives somebody the opportunity to, come back on and stuff. So get in your final questions. We'll answer anything that comes through, and then start wrapping up here. Imagine if we saw outputting the same way in other subjects as in language learning, a psychology student speaking about psychology before reading about psychology and so on. Well, if you've ever been to Twitter, that happens all the time. People, if you want to break it down into language terms, there's a lot of people outputting on stuff that they don't know anything about. But in terms of a profession, I also see what you're saying.
Yeah.
True, being a native English speaker means that people want you to be their free English teacher. I'm sure. I'm actually anxious. Natalia, I'm going to send you a message. I actually have it on my calendar to send you a message Monday. That was one thing I was interested to speak to you about, was being in Korea, learning Korean, which we can get into that. But yeah, that's definitely something. They definitely want you to be an English teacher. I'll look into it as I go on. Thank you guys. Thank you. What kind of podcasts do you use when you do passive immersion?
I don't use podcasts. I've never I've tried some Japanese podcasts, but I've never listened to podcasts in general, so it's not really my thing. Yeah, there's been a couple of ones in English, but like they were special. Like there was one called something like Welcome to the Magic Tavern or something like that, and it was like a fantasy podcast. Like that doesn't really exist in Japanese, so there's no interest in there for me.
Yeah.
I don't actually do passive immersion much these days, like at all. But like what I would do back then, I would just take the audio for whatever anime I've watched and just dump that on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do for passive immersion. For me, I don't do podcasts either. I do. I go onto YouTube, like on my Japanese YouTube account, and I'll type in like a random subject and then like TED Talks or something like that. I'll listen to,
that's good.
I'll listen to TED Talks. I'll listen to there's just a couple of channels that I listen.
In the background is awesome. Like that.
That's the type of stuff that I do. I find them also to be easier to listen, like especially until I can understand them a little bit more. Once I can understand Japanese a little bit more, I may be, because I like Joe Rogan and stuff like that. So maybe I'll get a little bit more into it. But but for now, I find that to be much more entertaining than a 2-hour, or 3-hour podcast that I don't understand. It's broken up. This person's speaking, and with learning how to parse sounds, you're hearing different people speak, so you're hearing the different ways that different people speak, Like if you were to listen to this podcast, your English is not necessarily completely different, but we have a different speaking pattern.
Yeah. We use different words and different accents and stuff, so
that's one thing that I do. What kind of podcast? Selfishly, I would like to see multiple hours of the MIA crew on your channel, but I understand your decision. Yeah, I gotta spend some time with my immersion and stuff as well. So,
yeah, like you said, you can have people back in a couple of years again. So at the end of the day, it's going to add up to a couple of hours.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, everybody.
There is one thing I want to talk about though before
Yes.
we finish.
Yeah.
Well, it's because a lot of people who follow me on Twitter would know that I'm kind of like the variety show guy, because not many people in the community watch like variety shows, but I do and I love them. So I'd like to like give out a couple of suggestions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I'm too lazy to make a video about it. I do want to make one at some point, but like if I can just mention some, because I'm sure that I've been asked so many times, what shows do you recommend? You know, what should I watch? I want to get into it.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people watching right now who actually want to, or right now or in the future, who'd like to get some suggestions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely would, because I'm open to all forms of media.
So a good one for starters, I think. Well, not just for starters, but just because a lot of people like it, even people who have no interest in Japanese language, would be Suyobi no Downtown, Wednesdays Downtown. Basically, the way the show is set up is there's a panel of the host and a panel of comedians, and they present setsus, which are like theories or hypotheses, stuff like that. And then they test out to see if it works. So I wrote down 4 examples. They're not necessarily the best examples, but just good examples to show how random it can be.
Yeah.
So the first one I have is, if you were put in a closed room with no clocks or windows, could you leave in exactly 24 hours? So it kind of tests the people's internal body clocks, and most of the time they're completely off.
Right.
There's one, would kids still be excited to get a present from Santa if you were a scary monster instead? That one was actually really fun to watch.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's just like they have a Santa come in, but he's, you know, a monster, and then you see the kids like thought process going, that's Santa, but wait, it's not. What do I do?
It's like Krampus instead of Santa.
Yeah, exactly. There's another one. Can you follow someone in a zoo, Metal Gear Solid style? So they had like the comedians doing a fake show, but they thought it was a real show, so they're going through the zoo and showing the stuff. But then in the background, you've got another 3 comedians, and one of them's hidden in a fake trash can. One's in like behind like one of those like wooden panels with information on it. And then there's another one. I don't remember what he was in. I thought he was in a cone, in a traffic cone. And then when the hosts were walking, they'd get up and walk and get closer and stop when they would look and see how long they can go before getting noticed. So that's very random, as you can see.
That sounds hilarious.
Another one would be, can you go on a date with a backless outfit and not get caught? So basically, you know, it's like a tuxedo and pants and everything, but in the back you can see everything. You see the ass and everything. So they're trying to like angle themselves so that the date doesn't see, but also doesn't notice that he's doing that.
Dude,
and the last one,
are these on YouTube, or is this or?
No, well, it's
you can search for it, I guess.
Yeah, well, there's a website called Gaki no Tsukai, where if you make an account, you can like find a lot of variety shows on it, including this shows. And basically, the way it works, you have to download a decryption code, and then when you go to download the episode, you can use the code, and then you'll be able to download the episode. And the last little piece I want to talk about this show is this one's kind of hard to explain. But I really liked it from a Japanese language perspective. It was, as long as you keep the yo and the su of yoroshiku onegaishimasu, can you say whatever else in the middle, and will people notice? So, for example, you know yoroshiku onegaishimasu, right?
Right.
So the level 1 difficulty was, I don't even know what it means, but it was yobo yobo ni miemasu. And then the level 4 of difficulty was Yokohama Shi Paradise. And they'd have to say that instead of Yoroshiku onegaishimasu, and try to make it so that the other person doesn't notice and just replies properly.
Dude, that sounds amazing. I would love that.
Yeah, and I tried to say it like really fast, like yobo yobo ni miemasu, so it doesn't sound like too wrong, and you know, it was great.
That sounds amazing. Somebody in the comments said, "Can you write that site down?" or maybe
Oh yeah, actually, yeah.
maybe the okay, that's what those are. While you're doing
I
that,
should probably let me. Yeah, I'll write it down in the comments right now. Okay, no, Tsukai.com, and then the show is called Suyobi no Downtown.
Tsuyobi no
There we go.
downtown.
Put it in the comments.
Tsuyobi no downtown. That's hilarious. That sounds like a show that I would like because it is that variety show, and it kind of reminds me of like Impractical Jokers or something.
Yeah, yeah. And they're always like joking on,
Sneeze.
well, almost always joking on comedians. So obviously, they're used to reacting. So it's basically like watching a reacting thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, like there was one that the goal, like basically they would have these random people hide in a comedian's house without the comedian knowing. And then when the comedian would come back home, they time how long it would take before he noticed that there were people in his house. So it's really like a lot of things like that that'll scare the crap out of them.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna try to find some of that because that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Let me see. Wallaby says, if anime is cringe, then why aren't Disney movies? I don't know if anybody said anime was cringe. Could you write down the
people who say that on Twitter?
Talking about? I don't know. I mean,
because what they're saying is that the language is cringy because it's not like how real people would talk.
Right.
But like I used to watch anime in English dub, and it's also not the same. Like that's not how people talk. So to me, it's not really cringe. It's just anime talk. I'm used to it.
Yeah. Let me see. Was there any other shows? Variety show? Or is that the main one?
Well, that was the main one I wanted to talk about, but there is another one called Gaki no Tsukai. As you can see, the site is based on this show. It's by the same host. So, like, the hosts are called Downtown. And they have, like, a lot of series. That show has been going on from, I think, over 25 years, the Gaki no Tsukai.
Yeah.
So, there's, like, 1,500 episodes or
Holy
something like that. And it's the easiest one to find because it actually has an English community who, religiously watch the show. So
yeah,
but they have a great series called the 24-hour No Laughing series, which they do once a year for New Year's. And basically the cast is put in a situation for 24 hours. So for example, one of them is in a high school, so they're acting as high school students. One of them is hospital, so they're acting as a nurse. And one of them is Earth Defense, so they're acting as space patrollers. And they're put in those situations, and for 24 hours, they're not allowed to laugh. But, of course, there's crazy situations put in place by the cast for them.
Right.
And then, every time they get some physical punishment, every time they laugh, and they always end up laughing, like, hundreds of times.
I've seen, like, before I really got into Japanese, I've seen clips of shows where it'll be like stuff that you're describing exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's really crazy.
The one that I always think of is there's one where they're in a library. And
that's from them.
Is that from them? And like people will come out to try and make them make noises and stuff because they're supposed to be quiet in the library.
That's actually the next sub series from this show I was going to talk about. It's called Silent Library, where they have like a card. One of them has a skull on it, and whoever picks the skull has to take a physical punishment and try to not make noise.
That sounds, yeah.
It's really funny to watch. You don't even need to understand Japanese because they're barely not speaking.
Right.
Yeah, there's Japanese in it, but it's physical comedy. So even if it was in, I don't know, like South African whatever,
right.
It was I should have picked one that I knew the language, but
Afrikaans is South African.
Yeah, that's it. I didn't know how to pronounce it. Afrikaans. Yeah. Well, even if it was in that language, then you would understand it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm gonna be watching some of that stuff because I love the variety show things like that. Some of the ones in America irritate me because like America has gotten to where they want to just script everything, even shows that are unscripted.
I know.
So I'm anxious to see some of that because like there's just some things that happen where I'm like that's not a natural reaction. Like that's
exactly because with these, obviously it's planned, but it's not fully scripted.
Right.
Like one of them in the Silent Library, one of the punishment was just to get hit on the leg with a leak. So you're not expecting that to hurt, but then they're hitting with the hard part. So you can see them when they switch the side. They're like, oh no 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 no, that's gonna hurt.
Right. Yeah. I'm anxious to see that.
And just one more sub-series from the show I want to talk about.
Yeah.
It's called the Kiki series. So basically, they pick like one kind of food, and then they blind taste it, and then they have to try other ones and try to find exactly which one they had. For example, one of them is orange juice. So they try an orange juice from one specific brand, and then they'll have like 15 different brands of the same orange juice, and then they have to taste them and try to figure out which one is the right one.
Whoa.
And like they've done like 40 of them. So there's like instant ramen, there's chips, there's mayonnaise, there's coffee, there's soy sauce that they have to just try the soy sauce and figure out which one is the right one. And again, if they fail, they get a physical punishment. It's a lot of physical punishment with them, and that kind of makes it funny.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm gonna be watching that stuff for sure, because variety shows I never get tired of, and I think it's because no pun intended, there is a variety of content.
Yeah, there's
like
so much of it.
It's just a little short.
Like I think there's like 10 of them that I watch weekly, or try to watch weekly at least. I guess I can mention the name of a couple of them, because I know that we've been at it for a while now.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So, like I said, there's Gaki no Tsukai and Suyobi no Downtown. Then also hosted by Downtown is Downtown Now, where they basically have some guests come in and they go to restaurants and eat. But the important part is not that they're eating the food, but that they're talking. So the food, like, it's not like a food review show where they're just like, oh, oishi, oishi, meh. You know, it's not like that.
Right.
They really just the setting is that they're eating, but then they're talking about their guests, you know, the life, and like making fun of them sometimes, and you know, stuff like that.
Right.
So it's great interactions between people. Then I see someone mentioned it in the comments. There's Getsuyo Kara Yofukashi. It's basically called the Monday late night show. So you get kind of the idea, but basically the staff goes in regular Japan and asks questions to regular people, but they obviously only show the not so regular people who are very weird. So you get really weird answers, and because of that, it's pretty interesting. But again, from a Japanese learner perspective, you get to hear real Japanese from people who aren't trained at speaking well, you know,
right,
and not reading from a script. So that's also great for that. And for the same reason, there's a show called Documento 72 Jikan. It's basically a documentary for 72 hours. They just pick a location, just a regular location, can be a dentist, can be a park, a ferry, and they'll stay there for 72 hours and just talk to the people who go there. Regular people, just to see what the place means to them, why they're going there. So that's also great. You know, at the beginning, I didn't enjoy it because my Japanese, you know, sucked, so I didn't understand anything.
Right.
But now I enjoy it more because I actually understand what the people are saying.
Right.
And most of the shows I'm watching is either because it's slapstick comedy, like the shows I talked about, or because I hear like real normal Japanese from it.
Right.
Like also the next one is Degawa Tetsuro no Juden Sasete Moraemasen ka. It's the comedian Degawa Tetsuro going on an electric bike. They're going, you know, from they have a goal somewhere they're trying to reach. It's like a travel show, but because they're on an electric bike, the battery runs out at some point. They can't exactly plan where it's going to run out. So when they run out, they have to find somewhere to charge it. And because of that, you get sometimes they'll stop like in a onsen town, but then sometimes it's going to be in a residential area, and they have to like talk to real people to try to find someone who's going to allow them to use their electricity to charge their bikes, you know?
Whoa. Yeah.
And those are the kind of shows that if you're just like turning on Japanese TV and browsing channels, you're not going to see them. You have to know that they exist to find them.
Right.
Because a lot of people say like, oh, Japanese TV is trash. And they're right. Most of it is trash. But if you know what you're looking for, you can find the good ones, you know?
Yeah. That sounds incredible, man. That's a ton of really, really good recommendations. And I'm probably
I'm going to stop with the recommendations.
No, you're good. I'm probably going to check some of those out after the stream ends, because I love that kind of stuff, and I never know really where to, like, you know, search for or whatever.
Yeah, I can help you out after if you want to just like get to know and understand the site.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, cool. I'm gonna wrap it up here. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your
Nice being here.
wealth of knowledge in terms of MIA slash AJAT slash whatever you want to call it, your Japanese studies, and and all that. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and go check out the Japan Code. I left all the links to the channels and whatnot in the description below. His channel. Well, I didn't put your ASMR channel, but
That's fine.
I guess I put it with it. But the Japan Code on YouTube
Now they know.
Twitter. So, but go check that out. And yeah, I appreciate everybody for watching, and I will see you all
Thanks for coming.
in the next video. And end.